Well, welcome to the Content Machine podcast. This week we are joined by Ricky Santos. Ricky was the first hire we made at Adelsberger Marketing, and we've been thankful to have him on the team ever since. It's going on,
almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing that he's been able to put up with me for so long. But Ricky is one of our designers and our lead motion graphic artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so this week on the podcast, we're just going to interview Ricky and talk about some design trends. So Ricky, tell us about a design trend that you're seeing.
Yeah, so I guess one thing we can think about first is like when it comes to trends, it's not something that everyone might be doing. Although we're not suddenly all gonna be switching to using these things.
Yeah,
it's just something that I've seen like around areas, around in graphic design, motion design, website design, that more people are start picking it up. Like one of the first things I've seen is a little bit more pulling in some vintage elements, but not necessarily copying like designs from 1960s, 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we're just pulling in colors or fonts or some of the language that they were using
and we're
during that time.
Not just talking like putting distressed things on stuff, right?
Yeah, just not making it look old.
When you mean colors and fonts, what's an example of that?
So like for one of the things, like we look at a home goods company called Pineapple Collaborative, sorry. And one of the things they use a lot of is just pulling in mid-century modern colors. A lot of mid-century modern design was very busy in some areas. We have a lot of like patterns and shapes, and I think a lot of that people don't really like right now. But the colors themselves, they feel more homey. They look good on like an olive oil bottle. They look good on your laundry detergent doesn't just look like a Tide laundry detergent. It looks more
aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then something else, another company that is doing some of that is CNET, the online electronic and like lifestyle review website. They just went through a recent redesign, and from their old logo, it was just a very not lifeless. It's not a good way to put it, but it didn't have much personality. But their new logo, pulling in the kind of older font, some of their illustrations that they use throughout the site have some of that retro, like cyberpunk kind of look to it as well. Yeah. More 80s kind of looks.
Looking at the logo here, it has extremely aggressive serifs.
Yeah.
Too much in my opinion, but like the T almost looks like a Times New Roman T, but everything else is out there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. It's like that looks like something we see from the Art Deco style that happened around the 70s and 60s. All of the fonts were elongated, and each little element of the font was a design feature in itself. It wasn't just like a little addition to the font.
Yeah, that is a whole identity just in that font style for sure.
But I mean, compared to other tech sites,
yeah,
that is not
it's very different.
Yeah, that we see everywhere else.
So vintage, but then you also say that retro's being seen.
Yeah, so when I think of retro, I think of bolder lines, bolder colors, bolder fonts, really, and I think I'm thinking more of the like hippie kind of trippy styles that we see some places, but also pulling in some of like the maximalism style, which is having a lot of bright colors, a lot of patterns, and kind of taking up the visual space using all those elements. We can kind of see one here. This is a designer's this is his profile.
Gleb. I'm gonna Sabrinizanov.
That's as close as anyone can get. But he's using these old looking I think of like my Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, very like Game Boy original boxes and fonts and shading.
To create a very easy to read website that is more fun. I mean, that's a lot of his styles is that he is like, this is the kind of thing he's known for, is like doing this kind of work.
Yeah, his domain name is gleb.sexy.
So that's
and
yeah, you gotta have a very bold personality to have that as your domain name.
Absolutely.
But
yeah,
also,
very retro.
Yeah, but also something we can look at is like what Target is doing and the new styles that they're putting out for their clothing and their like interior design. One of the things right now is like skinny jeans are gone. And same way, I feel like in design, a lot of like the very structured like grid systems, very structured print layouts where your header is always the largest thing, and then you have other little elements that follow like a very hierarchical. Yeah. Words are hard today.
Yeah.
The big words. But so you kind of know, the structure of everything is a little bit, but I think with the more retro design, it's a little bit looser in terms of the rules that you can follow. So like another example is, it's a fan favorite and some of our team members is Olipop.
Yeah, Alex on our team can't help but drink Olipop. So Olipop, if you're listening, we got a brand deal for you.
Yeah, but you can see there it's not just like the Coca-Cola logo or some bubbles on it. They're using some of the little bit more retro illustration style to make that the center of attention. And then also on their website, the fonts they use are, they're fonts that we see in old magazines instead of websites.
Yeah, and there's an interesting juxtaposition here with a new kind of soda written in a very old font style.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned here that black is taking over our screens.
Yeah, so once Apple finally started to implement dark modes on their phone, a lot of websites, a lot of apps started to have black as the main color instead of white. I think a lot of that has to do with our phones are better at showing black. Most people have iPhones in America, and a lot of the screens can show the text on black easier now because of how good Apple has designed the screens. And I think that has driven a lot of people to start designing in black instead of having white space. Your main element is darker.
Well, because you've got the technology that shows the screen better, shows true black. You've got that way you can have the contrast to read it. And then I think just big point about you bringing up about dark mode is dark mode makes it where everybody gets used to seeing that, and so it's not as weird to just see it all. It's like not a goth website because it's all black. It's just like this is kind of normal now.
And I think we also, from the pandemic, everybody started to watch content on their screens a lot more. Watching in a dark room, if you go out from your show and it's a really bright screen, that's going to be a bad experience. And so having a darker screen that kind of like helps your eyes not have that such stark change all of a sudden, I feel like that's another big reason a lot of when you go on Apple TV or Netflix, it's mostly all black.
And then you had an example here with Faye app.
Yeah, so they are I don't know too much about the app itself, like what they do. I think it's more of a investing dashboard, but they have a very dark dashboard look. I mean, the whole website is basically black. It's like probably 90% black.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and then I think because of the darkness of it, it looks more premium as well. You just kind of have the black Lexus feel.
Yeah,
you can kind of think of like that. But also Apple, when you look at Apple, some of their products, like the AirPods Pro, that's all in black as well. They have some of the products in white. They have some of the products black. I think they're more premium products. They show in the black, the black screen to make it a little bit more, to make it feel more premium.
Absolutely. Now, the last thing that you had here was AI art, which is a controversial subject and one that we should be thinking about. So, what are your thoughts on the AI art?
So, I think there's two branches of views on AI art right now. There's a lot of people who are worried that people are just going to stop making art and just use AI to make everything. But then there's another group of people who are looking into AI art as another tool in their toolbox, to help them quickly find, maybe they have like an idea in their head and they're having a hard time getting it out of their head into paper. And so it's a quick way to like push it onto the paper, as and just have different variations that they can kind of jump off from. This is using Midjourney AI, which is a really, really advanced AI system that does really, pretty realistic stuff. So,
yeah, because that's an AI image right there.
Yeah, this is AI.
So we're looking at a Prada bag AI image that has a wine bottle holder in it, and it looks real.
So, I do leather work on the side. So, like, one of the things I've thought about doing is, like, if I was to make a new type of backpack, what might that look like? Yeah. I know how to make all the hardware, points for it, but, having weird shapes or different ideas, that might be a little bit harder to.
Well, and you might be able to test market it too.
Another example is in architecture. It's a lot easier to quickly change up shapes of a building than to actually build up a building and just to see if it works on that.
So we're seeing an example of a Nike concept store in, looks like potentially Japan.
I think so.
That looks brilliant. It looks like a cross between a Nike and an Apple store. That's what it looks like.
And then on the other end of it, there's a couple of products, AI products that are built into Photoshop and Illustrator, where, you can, if, let's say I'm designing something for a website and I need an icon of a tree, instead of going out and, spending some time designing that icon of a simple little tree, or going out to another website to kind of pull an icon off of that, you can quickly type in there and it'll make a, one out of one icon for you real quick. So you can kind of pull that out real quick and start using that, and then maybe you can change some elements of that to make it your own still, or in Photoshop.
Or if you're making just a sample or a concept, that saves a lot of time. I think our, that's going to be something that we continually have to confront over the next couple of years. And it'll be interesting to see where the legal ramifications fall out at, and ownership, and because AI is just regurgitating other things that it finds. And then there's already been lawsuits filed. Right. And then also the legal ramifications of, like, some people are putting stuff into AI generators that the public doesn't need to know.
Right.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how people, if their data is as safe as they think it is, and all that kind of things. But those are things that we won't know the answer to for a few years probably.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky, thank you so much for sharing some design trends that we should be aware of. And where can we find you online? Instagram,
yeah. I don't have much on there, just Ricky Santos.
But you can find your leatherworking stuff.
Yeah, it's on there. Every once in a while.
What's it called?
It's the same.
Ricky
same
Santos.
Yep.
So I've got some Ricky Santos leather stuff at my house. I approve and encourage people to go buy that. But thank you guys for checking out the Content Machine podcast. Thank you to Ricky for joining us this week. And be sure to subscribe. And if you found something in this episode helpful, share it with a friend, text it to them, send them an email, check it out. We'll be putting these out weekly, and we look forward to being back in your feed soon. Thank you.